Welcome to the Boosting Achievement ESL podcast. I am your host, Dr. Carol Salva. In this podcast, I'm chronicling my journey of learning about the best ways to support multilingual learners and the teachers who teach them. This is episode 127. Before we get started, I want to make sure that you know about Voice Ed Radio. You can check it out at voiced.ca. It's education radio. You can plug into it right now, and I'm very proud to be on that network. But wherever you get your podcast, I am excited that you are here. This show comes with a video version if you're just listening to the audio, and the show notes are always in the same place. Let me give that to you. Type into your address bar, all in capital letters, bit.ly/BA podcast. All in capital letters, you're looking for episode 127. I'm so excited to be joined today by Dr. Denise Furlong. We have been friends for a long time, and we have a show coming up where I'll be interviewing her about her latest book, Learners First: Purpose and Practicality in Your Early Years of Teaching. So that is wonderful that she and her co-author, Carrie Orange Jones, have written a book specifically for new teachers. But today is a little bit of a different show because she's interviewing me. Dr. Furlong is a professor at Georgian University. She's also an international speaker. She's a very important voice in the field. She reached out, and we do this every year. She teaches at the university, and I'm very honored they use the book that I wrote with Anna Mattis about supporting students with limited education, newcomers who come with interruptions or limited education. So the second edition of that book is out, and there's so many parts to it. It's got so much more content. So her students did a deep dive in different parts of the book, and then they submit questions to me. And I usually get to Zoom with them, but we've recorded this one so that it can be shared beyond her classroom. So that's really exciting. You're going to hear questions from her brilliant students. And so Denise also adds her take on things. So I think it's a fantastic conversation. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Welcome, Dr. Salva. Dr. Salva has welcomed many guests onto her program as we all discussed our new books or strategies for empowering students, families, and our colleagues. And today I would like to chat with her about her new book with Anna Mattis. Boosting Achievement, Reaching Students with Limited or Interrupted Formal Education, the second edition. So there we go for that. Okay. This second edition includes important work surrounding her dissertation on the persistence of life, which I think is groundbreaking work and it is so needed in our field. So now Carol has been introduced by many people, many podcasts, many forms of media, and those who are listening are very familiar with her incredible contributions to the way that we all teach students. She's an award-winning educator, author, advocate, and probably, and I'm going there, probably the most influential voice in our field today. However, I would like to introduce her a little bit differently. Carol is an incredibly generous friend, and the joy that she finds in her family just lights up all of our lives. Carol is always up for an adventure, and she is the one that you want to be stuck in a snowstorm with. Carol is the friend who straightens your crown without telling anyone it was ever crooked. So on today's podcast, we are celebrating her long-awaited work of heart, her second edition. So at Georgian University, which is where I'm an assistant professor, we use Dr. Salva's book as one of our course texts at the graduate level for educators pursuing their endorsements as reading specialists, as ESL teachers, and as bilingual teachers, so teachers of multilingual learners. Each semester, students are so engaged and learn a ton from Dr. Salva's work, and they jumped
at the chance to ask her some questions. So I'm going to brag a little bit. GCU students are just so inspiring, and I'm so grateful daily to work alongside them and to learn alongside them. So, Dr. Salvo, we are all honored that you are willing to take this time to connect with us.
Oh my goodness, Dr. Furlong. Oh, I don't even know how to follow that up. Thank you so much. I've never been introduced on my own podcast. Every year, you bring so much passion to your work. And so to have you interested in bringing my work into your space there with your really impressive students is it's just a huge honor for me. So thank you to you, thank you to them, and thank you to anybody listening right now. This is a big honor.
So let's get right into this. So I'm going to start with Michelle's question. So she said, I am a high school English teacher in a diverse urban district where most of my 100 plus students are multilingual learners, including many who have recently exited ESL services. I love helping them grow. Now, she is a reading specialist. I love helping them grow as readers and writers, but I'll be honest, between lesson planning, grading, and trying to give each student what they need feels impossible. And teacher fatigue is real. What advice do you have for secondary teachers who want to stay energized and creative while supporting the many amazing but often high needs learners? And how do we do this work sustainably and, most importantly, joyfully?
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle, for that question. It sounds like what she's asking is what a lot of teachers are saying right now. It really isn't specific to students with limited education or teachers that teach newcomers. Teachers, the teacher burnout, the teacher being overwhelmed, the teacher fatigue, all of that is so, so real. So I appreciate that very, very much and her passion that's coming through. You know, one of the things that I am going to offer you that I've learned um, is that what has supported me so so much is having thought partners, is having someone in some way to help you as a person because you are putting so much energy. People get into teaching to help students, so we're putting so much energy into supporting these students and creating a safe space. And just like Michelle said, they have high needs, but who's taking care of the teacher? Where is that self-care? So you might rewind this podcast and listen to the first couple of minutes where Denise and I are talking about being stuck in a snowstorm together. And that's the thing. I lean into like-minded people who are also like fighting the good fight. There are absolutely things that we need to do. Some advice my daughter gave me, who, well, she was still in high school, was she was told when she was overwhelmed that there's always going to be a few moments to take a breath. There will always be a few moments. You can make a few moments to take a breath and reset yourself. But if you never do that, if you never stop and reflect and think about what can I control, what can I not control, what kind of mindset do I need to have? There's so many things about, the fact that there's always hope. There's always hope for the students. There's always hope for yourself somewhere. These kinds of mindsets are very hard to adopt when you don't take a moment when you don't take a moment to take a breath. And the way my daughter explained that to me was that some of her friends pray, some of her friends do yoga, some of her friends um, meditate, some of her friends um, journal. And it made me think of when I was back in the classroom and I got so overwhelmed with so many students that I didn't know how to help. And I would come home and talk to my husband until that was starting to strain our relationship. So that's when I started blogging. I didn't have a real thought partner really at the time. There were a few at school that I can go back and see they were key to my sanity, but I started blogging and I had 0 followers. But it was an opportunity to stop and take a breath and reflect. And that blog, this book that Denise just talked about, Dr. Furlong talked about the new book, that book was written and taken from that big pieces of it from that blog. So I know this is kind of a long-winded answer, but you need to find your people, and you need those people to help you see things you might not be able to see, to remind you of things. Even when you tell your girlfriend or you tell your friend, I'm so overwhelmed right now. The act of saying that is very much a self-care, because you once you put that out into the universe, it just sounds bigger and harder in your mind. These are just things for me that I'm offering you, because you're asking what advice would I have for secondary teachers who are feeling overwhelmed to stay energized. Well, I think you need someone, and if you don't have someone, start journaling, but I promise you they're out there. Dr. Furlong and I are both on Facebook in groups where there are thousands of people who are there to support you, and we will put in the show notes today links to how to get into the EL communities out there. I could go on and on about that. Dr. Furlong, how do you feel about that response?
I think when I learned that I can connect with people across the miles, it changed me.
Oh, yeah.
It changed me. My world got bigger. And I think that it really showed me that, the support doesn't have to look like something like I thought it used to.
So Dr. Furlong and I met on Twitter because we are like-minded and we were in groups, and those things exist on Instagram, and like I said, on Facebook, come and join us, and or LinkedIn and different places, and there are probably people in your community that will help you remember um, these simple things like, yes, it might be overwhelming, but have you reflected on the progress the kids have made? And that is so different than this is hopeless. I'm just going to stop trying.
And even meeting via Zoom with some coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. You and I have like met in person like maybe two times
Yes.
in our lives. And
Right.
we've been friends for years.
Yes.
Right.
So,
Right. 100%.
so
All
I
right,
love it.
Michelle, I
So
hope that's helpful. I hope
thank
that,
you so much.
yeah.
And now Haley shares, how may you consider your own experiences as a learner or a language learner as an influence on how you taught your students? And are there things that you would not do with your students based on your own experiences? Or are there things that maybe you learned from your teachers that you would do?
Well, that's interesting. Thank you so much, Haley. What a thoughtful question. Yes, in retrospect, everything is easy to see in the rearview mirror. There are some things I've done in my teaching career that didn't work for me as a student. So I don't know why I thought it was going to work for my students. It's just the way we always learned. As an example, lecturing and lecturing and talking and talking and talking without giving students an opportunity to negotiate meaning or use all their language repertoire. When I first started teaching language learners, and I was more of a newer teacher at the time, I was in my mind, I was like, well, I'm the only one that speaks English, and I'm the model. So, and also I felt like that they needed to stay in English, all of these things in the very, very beginning of my teaching career. Thankfully, I got some training pretty early on that showed me that structuring conversations and allowing students to use their whole language repertoire, and not lecturing the whole time, but making your lessons a little more student centered, was the direction I went in. But when I think about when I was a student and I struggled as a student, I created some just issues for myself. Um, it I thought I had trouble learning, and there was nothing wrong with me. I was a fake reader, and then I didn't enjoy reading. So the less you read, the bigger the gap, that everything just got worse. And so in my teaching now, I reflect a lot. So what I always do is make sure that whatever lessons I planned, that I had thought about when are the students going to stop and digest? When are the students going to stop and get to talk to each other about it? Where are my breaks in, if I am doing a direct teach, where are the breaks for them to collaborate and think about and use language? And then shortening my mini lesson so that they have more time to actually chew on things and use everything they have to, so those are just things that I try to make sure that I always do, is make it more student centered. And a lot of that has to do with my own experiences as a learner. I don't remember I don't remember a lot of opportunities to do that. I know I had teachers that cared about me a whole lot, but I remember I was in the slow reader group. I was in and you know that as a learner, and it made me disengage more and more. So that was, even as a brand new teacher, even with zero experience, I was an alternative certified teacher in my 30s. And I felt like I knew nothing about teaching. I was learning on the job. Um, but I was adamant about making sure these kids felt smart. And they were so smart, but I could just tell they didn't think they were smart. And I remember not thinking I was smart. And so it's amazing when you make that your mission. Everybody's going to have wins, everybody's going to feel valued. I mean, there are so many things that didn't work that I tried as a teacher, but but those kids did great that first year. Because when I'm preaching to the choir here with you, Dr. Furlong, when kids feel valued and when they start having wins and when they get on fire, your job becomes way easier. So that was something that even before I got training, really, I was like, oh, you sweet kids just don't understand how smart you are. That's what we're going to change here.
So I think about when I was learning, like I was an okay reader. I love to read, but outside of school. But when I learned to read in Spanish is where I learned the productive struggle. And I
Oh,
think that that really has helped me and that's guided me and kind of with my focus on literacy for multilingual learners, like that provided me with the experiences that I would have some empathy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, everybody brings something to this
Yeah,
game. Even if your struggle is not in literacy or in, like, you can make connections to how people feel and how they learn best, right?
right. Even if the struggles aren't academic at all.
Right. That's just the way we do life. No, I
Yes,
love it. Thank you for that question. That was awesome.
sure. Now, Jackie has a question.
Okay.
One of our assignments in this course is to choose an episode from your podcast that speaks to us and reflect on it. I loved your episode about teaching newcomers in this climate. We have students who come from different cultures, religions, and sometimes countries that might be at odds with one another. We talk about providing space for different opinions and voices. What happens when one student's opinion is shared but you feel that that might make the environment uncomfortable for another student?
Oh, okay. Haley's question was so good. And now this question is all so good. So that was an episode. It's
Mhm.
fascinating because I've had the podcast now for years. We're up to 127 episodes. So I did shows like this over the years because this isn't the first time it's been a challenging climate
Correct.
for immigrant students or language learners. And so I am going to rewind. I appreciate the one that Jackie is asking about. She is asking about or referenced episode. Um, it was in this climate was 124. So that was just very recent, right?
Yes.
Some tips. But her specific question, you have created a safe space. Kids are talking, using whatever they need to communicate with each other. And she's asking about what happens when one student shares something controversial or that is just at odds or
Yeah.
uncomfortable for another student. Again, this is very similar to the first question about burnout. It's not unique to the ESL classroom. We have teachers of history and teachers of literature that are, they know good instruction is offering students an opportunity to have voice. But what happens when the voices are at odds with each other? So I'm gonna rewind the clock back to when um, the year that I took over a class and there were 32 refugees. I tell that story. That's how all this started for me. I wasn't a new teacher, but I was new to students who had been through war and trauma. And then within those middle school 32 kids, their countries were at war with each other. They didn't have a common language. There was so much frustration. Not initially. Initially, they were scared and quiet, but our we didn't think about a lot of social emotional things or how to have the kids interacting with each other. We were freaked out that a lot of them had not had formal education and we were trying to teach them the alphabet and we skipped over the things that are foundational to a classroom that's going to be a high functioning classroom. So whether you're teaching language arts or whether you're teaching social studies or any of this, we want students to feel comfortable talking to each other. But when you set up your classroom, at the beginning of the year, we had to do a hard stop. This was like November, and the ship was already going in the other direction, and kids were fighting, and they were very angry with each other and with us and all of that. And it still worked. It still worked to stop and do something that I learned from a colleague who came in to watch and help me settle down this class. And I had a lot of experience, but this needed next level stuff. um, and so they used Capturing Kids' Hearts is a company here in Texas, and they come in and do training. Capturing Kids' Hearts has a lot of techniques you might be familiar with. And one of them is creating a social contract with the students. So Anna Mattis, my co-author, and I included this in the first Boosting Achievement book because when we tapped the guy in our district who's on the low socioeconomic side of the district with the most challenging revolving door of students in middle school, but he has some of the best math scores in the district too, and we have some very affluent schools. So we tapped Joseph Maurer to come watch me and give me some classroom management support. And he's like, you don't have a contract in here for how they treat each other. And he didn't say it like that. He said, you don't have a social contract. And I said, what is a social contract? And he said, well, it's the rules, it's the norms. And I was like, oh, no, no, you don't understand. A lot of these kids have never been to school before. They're not going to be able to make the rules for the classroom. And he like said, no, here's the thing. It's not rules for my classroom. It's how do we treat each other? How do you want to be treated? How do you want to be treated by, how do you think other people want to be treated? How do you want to be treated by the teacher? And how do you think the teacher wants to be treated? We spent a couple of days with specific questions from Capturing Kids' Hearts, and we put that out. That's on one of these podcasts, and it's also in the book. It's out there for free. That that has been one of the biggest shifts because there are going to be controversial topics. It's not that we need to agree. It's that we need to be respectful in another person's point of view. So I can two three things these can both be true. I can very much disagree with what you are saying and I can respect your right to voice your opinion or to have that opinion.
Right.
Now, at the same time, we are growing people that need to be aware that their words affect other people. So I need to be aware that what if I'm saying something that's going to offend someone and I know it, is it appropriate for me to say that in this setting? That goes back to that social contract. How do you want to be treated? Someone told me back then to remember that in your class, there's all these different cultures and different religions, and but almost all religions across the world have this golden rule where there's this kind of moral code at some point where you are going to treat people the way you want to be treated. It's to some degree. So there's the common threads, even if the kids are from very different backgrounds, very different cultures, very different religions in this space, in this classroom, we all want to learn as much as possible. And so we are going to act the way we want the world to be, whether the world is like that outside those doors right now or not. We're going to create a contract where we agree, and it's just agree on how we're going to treat each other and how things are going to go. So it's not that controversial things didn't come up. It's that that's when the teacher would do a hard stop and walk over to your social contract that everybody signed because you took the time to go through those questions and nothing went up there unless 100% of them agreed on it. It's a bigger, it works when you've created conditions where there's dignity and respect among students. We're just always working toward that. Dr. Furlong, that sounds probably like something dear to your heart, I'm sure.
100%. And it's also with that contract to even acknowledge that sometimes we might say things without realizing, and to say that that's a safe thing as well. It's safe that I can say to you, I understand that that might be something that is said in your household or on your block or in your community, but in here, that might not be the best representation of how we kind of speak in our classroom, and we consider the diversity, the beautiful diversity that we have.
Right. It's coming down to respect, right?
Yeah.
I was so worried that I was going to do, because it had happened where in elementary we had a way that they asked to go to the restroom, they would cross their
Yes.
fingers and hold it up. Well, in some places in the world, that's super vulgar. And so I got so scared about that. How am I going to learn about everybody's religion? How am I going to learn about everybody's culture? How am I going to learn about everybody's norms so that I don't offend anyone? Or so that I understand where they're coming from. But in that first year, those kids taught me so much, as we always say. I realized that I don't need to learn everything. I need to make sure they know that I would like to know if I'm doing anything that offends. You're welcome to tell me at the break. You're welcome to come in and tell me at lunch. And we did have girls come in and say the way the boys were speaking in the back of the room, it wasn't necessarily bad words, but they were not able to hear it. They could not hear that type of talk about girls and different things. They're like, it's just we can't function like this. So but they came and told me in private, and then the next day I could like launch with a lesson about that exactly what you were saying. Yeah.
And to assume the best of people, assume maybe you don't realize, and that's okay. And you know what, I say this all the time, like, I assume the best and sometimes I might be wrong, and that's okay.
Right. I would rather I would
Yes.
rather be wrong assuming good intentions. That's a
Yes.
fantastic thing to remember. And a lot of the things that we worry about in this environment of a classroom really mimics what's happening in the bigger world. So when you're talking to your students about respecting each other's opinion and how one of the most critical things you can do is have kids debate. Have kids debate because that's so high cognitively, how to solve a problem or whatever it is. But that only works if you are respectfully debating. So even sentence frames like, I hear what you're saying, but have you considered? There are
Yes.
those frames are out there because we're growing people. We're growing people, and it's a good reminder to me. I had, like you were just saying, I had on our social contract, well, Miss Salva will speak to us in a pleasant tone. And I was like, why do we need that? I always talk in a pleasant tone, and they're all like,
I'm a
no.
delight. I'm a delight.
But I mean, isn't that a great place to reflect that do I yell at you guys? And they're like, well, you get kind of loud sometimes. I was like, okay, you know what? It's not it, I'm just writing it up here because if I don't, I need somebody to point that out to me because I'm thinking I'm not. It's all real. It's all real. And so they're going to face things, Jackie, in the real world where they are going to hear opinions that offend them. And wouldn't it be great if they were able to reset, assume the best, walk away instead of engaging, or if the person that said something had somebody's in their ear going, is that productive?
Right?
Right. So we're those people um, until they're out on their own. Hopefully that's helpful. What a great question, Jackie.
I love it. Now, Deb is thinking about new teachers. Now we know that there's some new teachers, brewing over by you and by me as well.
Right.
And what advice do you have for those new teachers? And has this advice changed over the years, or is it the same thing that you would have said to yourself as a newbie?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, it's definitely not what I would have said to myself because I was just so overwhelmed. And I couldn't even think back then, really. That first year, if I could go back and talk to me back then, I would have just every day told myself, take a breath. Right? Like we started talking about
Yeah.
earlier. Take a breath, make sure they know you care about them, and make sure they know you care about them. Yeah. And I know that this is a long game. I know it feels like you're not doing anything, but even for you, every single day you learn more about teaching. So be kind and patient to yourself and recognize that you're bringing a lot. You're bringing a lot as a new teacher. You think you're not, but the fresh eyes that you bring to the field are so important. They are so important. I had that year that I was really upside down. I had a lot of experience, but again, the demographics changed, the situation changed, and I was just feeling so like such an imposter. Like I just don't know how to teach. I thought I knew how to teach and I don't know how to teach. And I didn't, I was in a silo by myself. So I did start feeling like, things were getting in, I like things where I just wasn't doing anything good for the student. But there was a new teacher. You know what? She wasn't even a new teacher yet. She was a student teacher in the building that I had the extreme fortune of getting to work with her for part of the day. And Catherine, so many things. I put her in the book. She's in the book. She's a picture of her's in the book and everything. She was probably my best co-teacher ever, or teacher that I partnered with. One of her strengths was, again, she didn't know what she didn't know. So she hadn't what you're going to hear a lot, new teachers, what you're going to hear a lot is veteran teachers like me saying, well, we've always done it this way and it works this way. And this is the way we've always done it. And in every year it's trying to, okay, that's a slippery slope. It is slightly dangerous because we keep doing things a certain way and the kids change year to year, right? So we've always done it that way, kind of keeps you from looking at things from different angles. We super need our veteran teachers. We super need people who have seen everything and can walk into my classroom and say, you need a social contract. You just don't know that. But I also needed fresh eyes. I needed fresh eyes because I never would have put the bar as high as I did with the kids if it weren't for Catherine Deersky. She would say, but they're doing author's purpose in the other classrooms. And I was like, oh my God, they can't do that. They don't even know how to read yet. And blah, 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 blah. And she would just say, well, can't we just try to see what they can do? And and she just had out of the box ideas. She was when you're student teaching or if you're co-teaching or anything like that, she had the opportunity to go into in and out of different classrooms like our paraprofessionals have. So she could bring ideas to me that, I mean, all of us can do that. All of us can get out on the teaching channel and look at different teachers teaching, but she would just had fresh eyes and she just had a faith that these kids could probably do more than what I thought they could do. And every time they could do more.
Of course they can.
Every time they could do more than what where I was putting the bar. So know that as a new teacher, you bring so much value. Even if you're not comfortable voicing it yet, follow the mentors they give you. If you don't have a mentor that's serving you well in your reality space, there is a whole online community. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's called the Mentoree. It's
Yeah.
out of Canada, but it's Noah Daniels' work,
Yes.
and she pairs new teachers with people who want to be mentors. And there's so much support for you out there. Just realize that you're not just taking, you are bringing fresh eyes and value to your space. And then be kind and patient to yourself.
And that imposter syndrome is so real.
So real.
But don't give into it.
Don't, don't. I really lean into that now that there's no reason to feel like an imposter when you're working together. And ironically, that's what we want the kids to feel
So
like,
it's true. The
right?
collective uh the collective strength of all of us is better than any one person.
100%. You have the fresh eyes. So we need the wise eyes that have been in teaching forever. We need the fresh eyes and we need all the eyes in between.
Everybody.
Yeah, we're so happy
So
here.
so Kate is very excited about the dissertation information that you share in the new edition. Do you have any plans for future research?
Oh gosh, Kate, that kind of gives me chills when I think about it. Like I get nervous of starting all of that all over again. But actually, I appreciate that question because I never thought I never thought I'd get a bachelor's degree, much less going to get my master's and then doing this doctoral research and everything. Just wasn't that type of student and I didn't have that mindset. So when I did, I would recommend anybody who can. I know Dr. Furlong feels the same way. If you have an opportunity in life to to study and research something you're passionate about, you'll never regret doing that. It's not that it's not a lot of work, it's that it's worth it. It is so worth it. And so I learned over those years that even though I never considered myself an academic or somebody who was interested in research, I'm definite. All of us want to know what the research says is effective or what's been learned from other scholars. And all of us are standing on the shoulders of research that went before us. So I'm not going to say never. I'm just really grateful to my family for
Putting
the
up with us.
support for a couple of years. So, but the reality is yes, future research, because I kind of learned that I want to be doing future research all the time. All the time. Dr. Furlong just came out with this book for new teachers, and I know it's full of research, and I want it. I've got it. It's on its way to my house. And I want it because I want to learn as long as you remain a lifelong learner, you're likely going to come across the research if you're learning from people in the field who are sharing research-based things.
It's so much fun to like geek out about that stuff.
It is. I mean, and Kate brings up a good point. Like, thank you also. Kate is talking about the fact that when I finished my dissertation, I just put it on my blog for free. People don't have to go subscribe to a paywall or anything. And then our publishers and my co-author, Anna Mattis, put it into the new book in a
Yes.
very user-friendly, easy kind of read. So I really appreciate Kate saying that she liked that research, that she can use that research that's in the new edition. And we do, you end up being a person that likes research, or at least that's what happened to me. And man, there are people I grew up with that still don't believe I ever became a teacher, much less any of that. So thank you, Kate. I'd be very interested in Kate's research too. So
I believe it's coming our way at some point.
All right, Kate.
Yes. So I have one last question,
Okay.
and it's from me.
Ah!
So when you Google Dr. Carol Salva, ESL teaching hero comes up. Now, what are, if you were going to be a superhero here, I know we've got Carly, who is the educational Barbie, but
You
if
should
we've
say
got the
something.
ESL superhero here, what would be the best accessories in your superhero kit?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that is such a compliment. And I don't, oh, okay. So I've already said I have learned the power of connecting and having the kind of mindset. I don't know what it would be in a toolkit, but my mindset is something I'm always working on because when I get the extreme honor of going to visit a classroom like your university classroom or a school district or any a middle school anywhere, I get so excited now because I know I'm going to walk out better. I tell myself, I self-talk the way that I was self-talking when I would go into the classroom. This might go back to the first question of how do you not get overwhelmed. I had all this self-talk. I had sticky notes on my dashboard. I was going through the Starbucks line going, they can do more. They can do more. They're getting better every day. You need to remind yourself.
Yep, like little
There, yeah, look,
stickers
you
and
have
yep,
memory. So you need to, believe it and say it until you know what you believe, but then you walk in and kids are acting like kids and so it does become part of your DNA the more that you do that. So I think my mindset is something that I'm always going to continue to work on. So again, maybe it's that I want to be more vulnerable on behalf of teachers and I want to um you know, that I think, okay, I'm going to put a podcast out there, but I don't know if anybody is going to really benefit from this, but I know that I benefit from it. So I'm going to do it. Those kinds of mindset things I think are super important is to be clear about what you believe and then make sure that you move in that direction. So I'll give you an example too, because that year I had been an ESL teacher. I had been a bilingual teacher. I was our secondary specialist for sheltered instruction across our district. And then they pulled me out of that role and put me back in the classroom. And it was so humbling. That's when I felt like the biggest imposter because I'm in Houston. We speak Spanish here, a lot of people. But these kids didn't speak Spanish and they didn't know how to read in their heritage language, a lot of them. And there were just all these issues. And on one hand, I say, I believe all kids can learn. All kids can learn quickly. I believe that kids bring gifts. I believe that, I have these beliefs, but every day I was not operating that way. I would go in, I would get overwhelmed, and I was focusing on what they could not do. That's why I keep coming back to I had a thought partner or when I started blogging and started realizing, but what do you believe? What do you believe? Because language learners, first of all, when they're brand new, they're not going to say, "Hey, I understand a lot more. You don't have to translate for me." All these different things. And kids in general are not going to say, "Give me harder work." In general,
right.
you have to know what you believe and when we raise the bar, it needs to be with support, but we will never do that if we don't act, challenge your beliefs. That's what Joseph Mauer said to me when he came in that day and said, they can't, I was like, they can't make a social contract. They can't this and that. He's like, the biggest thing is you need to challenge what you believe because he knew me for a long time. And I was acting like I had gotten a class of kids who couldn't do what we'd always said kids could do. So my toolbox would have sticky notes for myself for my dashboard. My toolbox would have reminders that you can connect with people who will remind you, who will offer you, because I just need more suggestions now. I just need more examples. I believe everybody can do it, but how would you teach this if kids are just learning to read and write? How would I have them at eighth grade level? Well, we just need more examples because there are kid teachers out there doing it. The other thing I would have in my tool belt, for sure, in my box, in my toolbox, if I were an EL superhero, the thing I would have would be that big, and this is very practical. So the first one was abstract, like how you think. The other one would be sticky chart paper.
Oh, love it. Everywhere I go.
Everywhere you go. And this is expensive, people. This chart paper that costs like $35 for one, like 20
Pad.
sheets. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one pad. We're talking about a poster size, but
Hmm.
it's a pad and they're restickable. So Post-it brand kind. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's the only thing I started asking for. If we did a GoFundMe or if my principal said, "What do you need for your
What
ESL
for the
classroom?"
order? Hmm.
That's it. That's it. Because I could get markers from the dollar store. I could
Yeah.
get, they were going to give me a certain number of markers and stuff, but that stuff was the answer to so many things. Again, for ESL or ESL time, what I'm trying, one of my top tips is listen to kids, get some information from them, what they think about something, and then write for them using your English. When you write for them, but they are the authors really, you can do so much with that. You can use that to reinforce phonetics. Whatever you were talking about, you're reinforcing. You can reread it for fluency. You can put it all in the past tense. You can put it all in the future tense. But the main thing is that you write it higher than your highest kid. You use your academic register because you're not trying, it's not a comprehension thing. It's going to be for fluency and whatever. It's such an easy thing to use for differentiation, for literacy and for concepts and for anything. But that paper costs money.
It does. It does.
So that's the thing. It's the only thing I asked for. And then when we didn't have it, I just used butcher paper from the teacher lounge, and I took all of my husband's hangers from our closet that hung pants with the clippies.
Yes.
He just came home one day and there weren't any. I was like, "You're just gonna have to get other ones because I need to be able to hang these
You're right
posters."
up.
Yeah, so we just put push pins around the room, and one kid, we're talking about secondary, one kid would put all of them up, and at the end one kid would take them all down because I didn't even have my own classroom.
Right? How age relevant is the stuff that you're doing? And we've had this conversation, even if your secondary learners, your secondary readers and writers might, might benefit from the co-creating of text. How age relevant are the topics?
Right. It's what are you writing about? Sometimes it's just what can we read at home? I want
Yes.
them to have that conversation. I want to brainstorm and then I want to read it because we're going to reread it and reread it and reread it for fluency throughout the year.
Yes.
So that is an appropriate.
Vocabulary. Yeah.
But maybe it's about a book that was definite, that is an age appropriate book, and you're doing a part of it as a read aloud for grade level concepts like author's purpose, like,
Yes.
but then you're going to write about it. It's just a shared writing. It's like you're saying, if you go back and look at some of my videos, unfortunately, there's a video out there and I'm going, I see a dog. I see a cat. I see a because when I first started it, and these kids are 14 and 13 years old, but that's what I thought they could do. And I was right. That's what they could do by themselves. Why do they need to do that? I'm here. It does not need to be that babyish. I'm here. I can say, we observed many things in this photograph. Some of the things that people noticed were, that's
A
that
dog, a cat. Yeah.
it doesn't have to be. Anyway, we could go off on a tangent on that, but I appreciate it. You're humbling me with a compliment. Denise, it's so sweet because you are an ESL teaching hero, and you really are. And I'm just so honored to know you, period. So the fact that you wanted to do this with me today, the fact that you let me hear from your incredible education hero students, just so grateful.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for your kindness. It's humbling and I'm grateful to have you as my friend. I'm grateful to have you from like someone I could learn from. You're awesome.
No, thank you. Thank you. Again, everybody at Georgian Court University, everybody listening, everybody who's an advocate for those English learners or multilingual learners. Um, I don't know how to express how grateful I am for what you do. If you've never called in, if you've never written me, if you've never done anything that I would ever really know about, the fact that you're listening at all right now tells us that you're one of the good ones. You are the answer. And so I'm with Dr. Furlong. It's an extreme honor just to be able to be a voice for educators out there in any aspect. So thank you, my friend. That is my good friend, and we're just going to be planning our girls' trip soon, which is a totally
Yes, down to
different
see the kids
topic.
in college.
Okay, but seriously, honestly, thank you so much. I'm so excited, and we're going to have you back. And the next time, we're just going to switch the Zoom and talk about you and your work because we need more. We need to amplify that as well.
Love it.
I love it. Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Well, I hope you found that inspiring. I was certainly inspired by Dr. Furlong's students. Denise is always inspiring to me. Again, don't forget, she has a fantastic new book out for new teachers. If you know any new teachers, and she wrote it with Carrie Orange Jones. Again, it's called Learners First: Purpose and Practicality in Your Early Years of Teaching. I have more than one copy. I may have already said that when we were recording this. Mine was on the way, but now I have one, and my daughter has one, and I'm going to order more for new teachers. It's just so important to pay attention to the fresh eyes in the field. So thank you again to Dr. Furlong and to her students and to you for helping my learning. I'd love to hear from you. Questions like her students had, or what I love is when people reach out and tell me how they've changed what Anna Mattis and I put in the book and made it their own or better. That's why the second edition has twice the content, because so many educators let us show how they were doing things, and there's so much more. So you can find the links to all of this, how to get Denise's books, how to get mine, and really all the free content that is available in today's show notes. You will find that, all of that, if you just type into your address bar bit.ly/BA podcast. All in capital letters. You're looking for episode 127. Thanks one more time to Dr. Furlong, and thanks to you. Take good care.